We continue where we left off, that is page 25, the paragraph that starts with the word archaeology. So archaeology has changed substantially in the intervening decades, focusing less on treasure and more on the fascinating details of life and intriguing mysteries of death. It also uses more sophisticated tools, including medical technology. In 1968, more than 40 years after Carter's discovery, an anatomy professor x-rayed the mummy and revealed a startling fact. Beneath the resin that caked his chest, his breastbone and front ribs are missing. So, when Carter first dug up and did his archaeology part, archaeology as a subject and as the techniques of archaeology, it has entered better dimensions. They have better facilities, better tools, all right? And now, it is no longer about the treasure. When Carter decided to cut the body into pieces, it was because he wanted to save the treasure pieces. But now archaeology is not about treasure. It does value treasure, but it holds the subject more important, the life, how he lived, how that person died. That is more important to archaeology in the modern era. And now that they have better facilities, when they did an x-ray of the body of King Tut, they found out that his front ribs and breastbone are missing. The entire bone and some of the ribs were missing, all right? They could find that out only much later when there were better technological advancement in the field of archaeology. Today, diagnostic imaging can be done with computed tomography or CT. So CT basically stands for computed tomography, by which hundreds of x-rays in cross sections are put together like slices of bread to create a three-dimensional virtual body. What more could a CT scan reveal of Tut than the X-ray? And could it answer two of the biggest questions still lingering about him? How did he die, and how old was he at the time of his death? So now that there are so many advances, one of the advances is the use of CT. See, X-ray you all are aware of. If we have a fracture, if somebody doubts a fracture, if we have pain in the tooth and all, we are advised for an X-ray. It's a single image, all right? It's one single image. Haath ko X-ray kosha, haath ko bone dekhse, that's it. When CT is conducted, it is like doing hundreds of X-rays together. Different images are taken at different angles, and so they can form a digital 3D body. You know what 3D is, right? Like anything which you can hold, touch, like this is a 3D image. जुन चाहिँ हामीले बुक्सहरुमा इमेज देख्छ, that is a one-dimensional image, because you cannot see beyond what is there. Two-dimensional image have a bit of better depth. Three-dimensional image, you can see it from all angles, all right? So it is as if they have a virtual body. They have another body of the dead emperor whom they can examine and find out what is wrong. They can check the nerves, they can check the muscles, they can check the bones, everything. King Tut's demise was a big event, even by royal standards. He was the last of his family's line, and his funeral was the death rattle of a dynasty. But the particulars of his passing away and aftermath are unclear. Amenhotep III, or Amenhotep III, King Tut's father or grandfather, was a powerful pharaoh who ruled for almost 4 decades at the height of the 18th dynasty's golden age. His son Amenhotep IV succeeded him and initiated one of the strangest periods in the history of ancient Egypt. The new pharaoh promoted the worship of the Aten, the sun disk, changed his name to Akhenaten, or servant of the Aten, then moved the religious capital from the old city of Thebes to new city of Akhenaten, known as Amarna. He further shocked the country by attacking Amun, a major god. smashing his images and closing his temples. It must have a horrific time, says Ray Johnson, director of the University of Chicago's Research Center in Luxor, director of the university, the site of ancient Thebes. The family had ruled for centuries, was coming to an end, and then Akhenaten went a little wacky. Yeah.
So debate competition थियो कि उसको अन्त नेपाली
Yeah.
so कसैलाई participate गर्नु
Who's interested in taking part in a Nepali debate? Any house?
भने कुन चाहिँ आउँछ
Yeah, get the names, get the names. Greenhouse. All right. All right. Well, so what had happened is, or rather what makes him so special, are two things. One is the mystery behind his death. How did he die? The first important thing of why it makes him the most important person is, he was the last to rule from his family line. All right? Unako under my reign for centuries, he was the last ruler. His father or grandfather, which is not known, Amenhotep III, had a very good succession. He ruled for 40 years. After that, he handed over the reins of his kingdom to his son, Amenhotep IV. And it is here that major changes were brought in. He changed the god altogether. Unale पहिला जुन चाहिँ godलाई worship गर्थ्यो, he stopped praying to that god. In fact, he smashed temples, he smashed the idols, and he started worshipping Aten, the sun disk. All right, they were also into idol worship. They used to worship the sun, they used to worship nature. So, उनीहरूले जुन चाहिँ अगाडि गडलाई worship गर्दै थिए, he stopped doing that. Not King Tut, all right, but Amenhotep IV. And he started following Aten. He changed his name, he changed the name of the capital. So everything became undone once Amenhotep IV succeeded to the throne. And he even went a bit wacky, meaning he started doing nonsensical things. Now, what were those? After Akhenaten's death, a mysterious ruler named Smenkhare appeared briefly and exited with hardly a trace. So after the death of Amenhotep IV, or Akhenaten, because he had changed his name, all right, Amenhotep IV changed his name to Akhenaten. So after his death, another ruler came to power. His name was Smenkhare, but not much is known about him. He came, he succeeded to the throne, and very shortly after, he vacated the throne as well. And there was no information about him. And then, a very young Tutankhaten took the throne. King Tut, as he is widely known today. The boy king soon changed his name to Tutankhamun, living image of Amun. So just like Amenhotep IV, even he was worshipping Amun, all right, the sun god, a major god, and oversaw restoration of the old ways. He reigned for about 9 years and then died unexpectedly. So what had happened is, he brought back the old ways. जुन चाहिँ Amenhotep III ले गर्दै थियो. Fourthly, he started changing everything. He started worshipping a new god. But when King Tut came to power, he brought back the old ways. All right. Again, he started following what was being preached by Amenhotep III. But then he ruled for 9 years. All right. He ruled for a very long term, 9 years, youngest ruler, and then he died unexpectedly. Regardless of his fame and his speculation about his fate, Tut is one mummy among many in Egypt. How many? No one knows. The Egyptian Mummy Project, which began an inventory in the late 2003, has recorded more than 600 so far. and is still counting. The next phase has scanning the mummies with a portable CT machine donated by the National Geographic Society and Siemens, its manufacturer. King Tut is one of the first mummies to be scanned, in depth as in life, moving regally ahead of his countrymen. So King Tut is not the first mummy, all right? Since the mummy project began in 2003, there have been more than 600 mummies that have been recovered. And King Tut would be one of the first to be scanned by a CT machine, which makes him, once again, special than the other mummies or the other 600 mummies that were found. A CT machine scanned the mummy head to toe, creating 1700 digital X-ray images in cross-section. Tut's head, scanned in 0.62 millimeter slices to register its intricate structure, takes an eerie detail in the resulting image. With Tut's entire body similarly recorded, a team of specialists in radiology, forensics, and anatomy began to probe the secrets that the winged goddesses and a gilded burial shrine protected for so long. So a total of 1700 digital X-rays were taken. Each X-ray, each body part was no less than 0.62 millimeter. It's not even 1 millimeter, a bit above half a millimeter. 0.62 millimeter slices ma chai usko body lai dissect garyo through digital X-ray, not physical. The mummy is still there. And they recreated the scene, they recreated his head, his body, all right, and now they are trying to find out what actually happened to it. The night of the scan, workmen carried Tut from the tomb in his box like pallbearers. Now, pallbearers are people who give shoulder to coffins. All right, they are known as pallbearers. Like pallbearers, they climbed a ramp and a flight of stairs into the swirling sand outside, then rose on a hydraulic lift into the trailer that held the scanner. 20 minutes later, two men emerged, sprinted for an office nearby, and returned with a pair of white plastic fans. So 20 minutes into the procedure of scanning, two men came out, ran to the office, went back again with a plastic fan. They ran back to the office, came back with a fan. The $1 million scanner had quit because of sand in a cooler fan. Curse of the Pharaoh, joked a guard nervously. As the scan was being conducted, the machine broke down. All right, sand entered the machine and it's no longer working. And the guards also started joking, maybe it's the curse of the Pharaoh, but they were nervous while they spoke these words. Eventually, the substitute fans worked well enough to finish the procedure. After checking that no data had been lost, the technicians turned Tut over to the workmen, who carried him back to his tomb less than 3 hours after he was removed from his coffin. The Pharaoh again rested in peace where the funerary priest had laid him so long ago. Back in the trailer, a technician pulled up astonishing images of Tut in a computer screen. A grey head took shape from a scattering of pixels, and the technician spun and tilted it in every direction. Neck vertebrae appeared as clearly as in anatomy class. Other images revealed a hand, several views of the rib cage, and a transection of the skull. But for now, the pressure was off. Sitting back in his chair, Zahi, however, smiled, visibly relieved that nothing had gone seriously wrong. I didn't sleep last night, not for a second, he said. I was so worried, but now I think I will go to sleep. Somehow they were able to complete the procedure using secondary fans, and now the coffin was sent back to the resting place. The body was laid to rest once again in it, and they started creating a digital image on the computer screen. All right, they recreated the head, hands, limbs, everything, and they started combining them. And even the technicians were very relieved that this procedure was complete. By the time we left the trailer, descending metal stairs into to the sandy ground, the wind had stopped. The winter air lay cold and still, like death itself. In this valley of the departed, just above the entrance of Tut's tomb, stood Orion, the constellation that the ancient Egyptian knew as the soul of Osiris, the god of the afterlife, watching over the king. So once they started, their job was done, they started leaving the place and they do a final look around and they describe what they see, all right? And it ends at this point. And this, as you can make out, is part of a much larger journal, all right? This is not just a short story. This is just an excerpt meaning just a piece of work from a larger volume, which is given source, National Geographic, volume 207, number 6. So there are continuations to this if you want to find out what killed him, what were the findings that they did after the scanning of the object, all right? And this is where we stopped for today. After completion of the chapter, Tut, the saga continues.